The scent of freshly fried Crispies drifted through the square like a tempting spell, drawing Li Hao in before he could even see the stall. That unmistakable aroma, golden, fragrant, nostalgic, meant only one thing. Uncle Lu was at work. A mere street vendor on paper, but in truth, a culinary legend whose stall had claimed territory outside the Divine General Mansion longer than most had dared to try. As Li Hao and Li Yuanzhao arrived at the bustling entrance of Tan Palace Academy, they noticed the crowd thinning students in ornate dress heading toward their trials yet. The local food stalls still drew clusters of curious visitors. Among them, Uncle Lu's queue stood longest, mostly filled with elegant young women and their dutiful servants. "You haven't eaten yet?" Yuanzhao asked, receiving a silent nod. Without hesitation, he shouted toward the front, "Uncle Lu, 2 breakfasts here!" Eyes turned, some recognizing the boys in fine robes not just as newcomers, but as youths of significance. Yet, Li Hao waited quietly at the end of the line, unfazed by attention, drawn more by the humble warmth of a familiar taste than any acclaim ahead. Lu was busy tending to her food stall when a familiar voice called out Li Yuanzhao. She looked up and was startled to see none other than Li Hao, the young master of the Divine General Mansion, standing quietly behind. With a sudden shift to a cheerful smile, she quickly instructed old Lu to prepare 2 portions. The old vendor paused, then grinned warmly at the sight of the boy. Unlike other nobles who looked down on commoners, Li Hao had once sat beside them on the dusty ground, helping them sell food like an ordinary street kid. That unforgettable moment from 3 years ago had etched him into their hearts. As Li Yuanzhao dragged him to the front of the line, Li Hao tried to stop him, clearly fine with waiting. But now, under everyone's gaze, he stood there silently, calm and composed. Servants in line dared only glance sideways while the women nearby scowled, one even muttering angrily, "Why does he get to cut? That's not fair!" "Exactly. Boss, you're being unfair." The protests rang out like sudden thunder, but before Li Yuanzhao could blurt out their noble identity, Li Hao calmly stopped him with a hand. The moment called for subtlety, not power. Stepping forward, Li Hao gave a soft smile to the indignant girls, then gently placed a gold piece onto the stall. "No need to argue. Let fairness speak 5 times the price," Miss Lu gasped, flustered, trying to return the coin. "Young Master Hao, we can't accept this." But Li Hao's smile didn't falter. "Keep the change. Count it toward the future." The vendors, sharp from years in Jianghu, caught the unspoken message. No need to push further. "Uncle Lu, 5 servings, please." "Right away," came the reply. His own wife no longer restrained herself, so he simply followed suit. As Li Hao casually spent 5 times the usual price for just a single crispy treat. The girls in line burned with silent fury. None of them lacked the silver, but none wanted to look like fools. Unfazed, Li Hao walked away with 5 portions of the coveted crispy sweets, tossing a bag to Li Yuanzhao as if it were nothing. "So many, how? You think you can eat them all?" Li Yuanzhao asked, wide-eyed after 1 bite. "No wonder you like these. This is insane." Smiling faintly, Li Hao made his way back to the carriage, where Qingji and Li Fu stood on guard. He handed each of them a share without a word. "Young master, haven't you gone to the stairway yet?" Li Fu asked, baffled as he accepted the breakfast. "Gotta eat first, don't I?" Li Hao replied with that same calm mischief in his tone. Li Fu could only sig after all these years. He knew better than to argue. Li Hao returned to the front of the carriage, where Ming sat quietly and without ceremony handed him a portion as well. Ming, though from Piaoshu Courtyard, had always treated him with respect, and Li Hao never forgot kindness. "Thank you, young master." Ming bowed deeply, both hands trembling as he accepted the item. But curiosity swiftly overtook gratitude. "You haven't gone to the entrance stairway yet?" Li Hao answered without a care. "After I finish eating." Ming froze. Others had rushed ahead. Young Master Lu, Miss Ji Ningde were likely already scaling the mountain. And yet this boy lingered at the base, calm as ever, the very image of the rumors, unbothered, serene. When his meal was done, Li Hao finally moved, with the anxious Li Yuanzhao trailing behind. The crowd parted as they reached the so-called stairway, 1,000 steps carved into stone, leading to Tan Palace Academy. But this was no simple climb. From the forest shadows beside the path, monkey demons sprang beasts once wild, now tamed and tasked with testing the brave. Every climber had but 10 breaths to ascend while dodging strikes from these agile foes. Fail, and the gates would remain closed. The first trial had begun. Just climbing the cliff demanded strength equal to the 6th or 7th level of the Power Passage realm. Yet that wasn't even the true challenge monkey demons lurked, launching sudden ambushes, testing both perception and agility. "Miss, this looks really dangerous," a maid muttered anxiously beneath her parasol. The white-clad young noblewoman didn't flinch. "It's merely the first gate. Hardly enough to stop me," she replied with poise, her eyes scanning the gathered crowd. Her sharp gaze identified elites from powerful bloodlines, some superior to her own, others not quite. "Those two, aren't they from the Divine General Mansion?" the maid asked, pointing discreetly. A flicker of recognition crossed the young woman's face. Yes. As the duo stepped forward to register, so did she, lips tight with resolve. "So what if they're from the Divine General Mansion?" she thought, eyes flashing. "I've heard the Li clan bears true dragon blood then. Let me see just how far I have to go." Before the registrar, she answered coolly, "Zhizhou, the Sai family." Nothing more. The first challenge's registration felt almost too casual until the moment the name Si family was spoken. The official looked up, nodded at the young girl, and calmly declared, "Go ahead. You know the rules. Just reach the summit within 10 breaths, by any means." A scoff cut through the air. 10 breaths? Too generous, muttered a young man in lavish robes, his tone arrogant. Si Xiaolan's eyes flicked toward him, recognizing a famed scion from another state yet instead of intimidation. Her gaze only sharpened with excitement. "Miss, they're all high-born elites. Perhaps we wait for the next round?" her maid whispered, clinging nervously to her sleeve. But Si Xiaolan's voice rang clear and fearless. "Why fear them? In the Jianghu, names mean nothing, only true strength speaks." With that, she stepped forward, leaving hesitation behind. As the competitors assembled, a quiet elder, seemingly half asleep, finally opened his eyes and spoke in a near whisper. "Get ready." Muscles tensed, breath slowed. A moment later came the call, "Yuan Zhao, go." The first challenge registration felt like a formality until the staff heard C family and raised an eyebrow at the girl before casually nodding, "You know the rules. 10 breaths to reach the summit however you want." But that wasn't enough to stir fear in Si Xiaolan. 10 breaths? Too long. Came a cold voice from a proud youth nearby, clearly a noble. Si Xiaolan recognized him at once, a rival from another state, and her eyes gleamed. "Miss, they're all high-born. Maybe wait for the next group?" Her maid whispered nervously, clutching her sleeve. But Xiaolan laughed, unshaken. "In the Jianghu, names don't win, batless kill does." She told the maid to stay put and stepped forward, ready to test herself in silence. "Get ready," murmured the meditating elder, barely opening his eyes. The prodigies around her exhaled and stretched. The moment drew near. "Yuan Zhao, begin." After 10 breaths, only 7 of the 12 reached the summit. Those atop the stone steps turned their gaze to the short, stout youth. Eyes filled with conflicted awees, explosive speed had sent shockwaves, each step roaring like a tiger. Was this truly a prodigy from the Divine General Mansion? The difference was overwhelming. See, Xiaolan's brows furrowed as she studied the chubby boy, younger than herself, yet radiating unmatched might, and deep within, a bitter sense of defeat clawed at her heart. Then someone noticed of the two from the mansion. Only one stood above. Confused, they looked back. There, a lone figure strolled casually among the demon apes, untouched. Li Yuanjiao smiled and waved, "How?" The boy arrived moments later, calm and smiling. "Does he still count as passing?" someone asked, incredulous. But the 10 breaths passed long ago. The crowd stood frozen in disbelief. At the summit, an elder calmly overseeing the trial broke the silence. His voice emotionless yet final. "You've all passed. Proceed to the second challenge. That's where your lives may end. If fear grips you, feel free to step back. Other noble houses still welcome disciples." His words, soaked in cold certainty, stunned everyone into silence. "Does he count too?" Si Xiaolan asked, frowning as she pointed at Li Hao. "Naturally, he holds an invitation," the elder replied without hesitation. "Invitation?" Eyes widened. Tan Palace Academy gives out invitations? Shock rippled through the crowd. While they had bled and fought, someone had simply arrived, with a ticket gifted by the academy itself. The crowd stood frozen in disbelief. Atop the summit, an elder tasked with overseeing the trial spoke with chilling indifference. "You've all passed. Proceed to the second challenge. That's where lives may be lost. Quit now if you wish other noble clans will still take disciples." His words, sharp as steel, silenced even the proudest hearts. Then came a pointed voice. Si Xiaolan's brow furrowed, eyes narrowed at Li Hao. "What about him? Does he count as passing too?" The elder replied with a calm that felt heavier than thunder. "Of course, he has an invitation." Gasps echoed. "An invitation? Tam Palace Academy gives those out?" Shock rippled through the gathered talents while they bled to climb. Someone had sailed in quietly, carrying a token of entry bestowed by the academy itself. Some moved as if the wind itself obeyed their steps, calmly walking the trembling iron chains high above the Voidiech footfall steady, as though the very air supported them. Others stretched out their arms, staggering like newborn fawns, every step a gamble between balance and fear. Then there were those who clung with arms and legs, inching along like desperate caterpillars, sacrificing grace for survival. It wasn't just about crossing, it was about daring too. The abyss beneath them wasn't just a test of strength, but a mirror to their courage. "If this terrifies you, how will you ever stand before true monsters?" Someone coldly muttered. Among the 7 who passed, one youth in fine robes stepped forward, face unreadable. Without hesitation, he leapt onto the chain, hands clasped behind his back, walking as if on solid marble. Gasps followed him. His every move spoke of discipline, bloodline, and relentless training, a silent thunder rolling over the crowd. Recognition spread. No name needed to be said aloud, his bearing shouted it. And those still hesitating began to waver not from the height, but from the weight of being left behind. Because having someone behind you isn't enough, you also need someone before you. Li Hao's lips curved faintly as he glanced at the girl, his gaze light and detached like wind brushing over still water. Then, softly but clearly, he called out, "Little brother, come!" Without hesitation, Li Yuanzhao stepped forward, understanding everything. The elders had said Li Hao's cultivation was limited, confined to physical refinement, never seen him train. Yet he didn't hesitate. When Li Hao patted his shoulder, Li Yuanzhao knelt slightly, offering his back. Li Hao leapt up casually, like it was the most natural thing in the world, and waved at the dumbfounded girl beside him. "See you on the other side." In the next instant, Li Yuanzhao shot forward with a roar, bounding tens of meters onto the swaying chain bridge. With Li Hao on his back, he ran across the shaking abyss like the chain was solid ground, every step fused with perfect balance and power. His cultivation at Cycle Heaven Realm Perfection made the impossible look effortless. Watching them blur forward into the mist, the gathered crowd stood frozen shocked, not by arrogance, but by a quiet defiance that crushed every whisper of doubt. Because having someone behind you isn't enough. You also need someone before you. Li Hao's chuckle was soft, but his gaze searing, aloof pierced through the haze of judgment. "Little brother, come," he said calmly. Without hesitation, Li Yuanzhao bent down. He understood. He'd heard the whispers. Li Hao, the boy with no talent, stuck refining his body like some outdated relic. Yet here he was, ready. Li Hao hopped onto his back with quiet ease, then turned to the stunned girl beside him, offering a small wave. "See you on the other side!" And then movement. Lightning fast, chain shaking, bodies weaving with the wind. Li Yuanzhao leapt across the iron path as if it were solid earth, feet sticking like roots to bark, energy flowing smooth as breath. Onlookers froze in disbelief. They'd seen arrogance before, but this was something else entirely. It felt like he was running on solid ground. Was that even possible? And he wasn't just running, he was carrying someone. The moment the crowd recognized their attire, sharp eyes caught the emblem of Qingzhou's foremost clan, and murmurs spread like wildfire. Still, even knowing who they were didn't dull the hour rumors paled next to reality. Just ahead, the elegantly dressed youth who had first stepped onto the chain was swiftly overtaken by Li Yuanzhao, who moved with casual ease, hands behind his back. He showed no reaction until a gust of wind flew past and finally stirred a flicker of surprise on his face. Then, Li Yuanzhao landed on the opposite cliff. The chain, 1,000 jang long, stretched across mist-veiled peaks like a silver thread in the sky. His run had sliced through the fog, revealing the horizon. On arrival, Li Hao hopped off his back and scanned the surroundings. They weren't the first. Others had already gathered, those who'd passed earlier trials, now waiting at the base of Tan Palace Academy. Before them stood the Academy's disciples, dressed in black and white robes that radiated elegance, though only truly flattering on the graceful one. Among the crowd, eyes turned, and someone finally whispered, "Who is that person?" He abandoned his sword without hesitation, fists rising like twin hammers as he surged forward, each blow howling through the air with the ferocity of a beast unchained. But Li Yuanzhao's movement was liquid smooth, a single twist, an eel slipping through gaps, before snapping back with a brutal counterpunch. The impact cracked through the air. The young man staggered 3 steps back, stunned that his strike, carrying the weight of 10,000 pounds, the strength of the 3rd layer of Zhoutian realm, was so easily neutralized. This wasn't just a fluke. His eyes narrowed. Was it the power of the 5th, or even the 8th layer? Or perhaps a secret art beyond Qi circulation meridian opening? The blood in his veins turned serious. The rumors were right. The Li clan didn't raise children, they forged monsters. Around them, the watching crowd sucked in their breath. Even the arrogant had to concede this wasn't normal talent. The chains above rattled ominously as more figures descended. Scions of the Su family, others from Yunzhou, even Xiaolan arrived. One glance at the trial rules and their faces darkened. This wasn't going to be an ordinary competition. He threw aside his sword in an instant, fists surging forward with a brutal rhythm, each punch roaring like a tiger's pounce, slashing like a wolf's bite. But Li Yuanzhao's response was like water, his footwork twisted with impossible grace, slipping through like an eel before counterstriking with a sudden, sharp punch. Their fists collided with a thunderous crack yet, while the youth stumbled back 3 full steps. Li Yuanzhao stood unmoved, rooted like a mountain. Shock flickered across the youth's face. Even without full force, his blow held the weight of 10,000 jin, comparable to a practitioner at the 3rd layer of the Zhoutian realm level, far beyond standard entry trials. Was he really about to be embarrassed in public like this? No. His opponent's strength must be at the 5th layer, maybe higher, or he had refined some top-grade Qi technique or meridian skill. The young man's eyes sharpened. So it was true, the Li family's heirs weren't just rumors. Watching this prodigy from the Divine General Mansion fend off a powerhouse with ease left even the other elites stunned, their awe painted across their faces. At that moment, the clinking of chains echoed through the air as new challengers landed, youths from renowned clans like Su of Yunzhou and Xiaolan, her gaze quietly assessing. Tan Palace Academy disciples quickly shared the trial rules, and the newcomers' expressions hardened. The real test had just begun at Tan Palace Academy's gates, where talent is the bare minimum and hardship defines worth. Tension rises as challengers battle through brutal tests. Xiaolan, ever sharp and proud, casts a sideways glance at Li Hao, still calm, still present. Her heart twists. He holds an invitation, a golden key that skips the blood, soaked grind. Unlike them, he didn't crawl through mud and blade. Just then, a towering youth gestures at Li Hao it's his turn. Li Hao smiles faintly, pulls out the invitation. No fanfare, no arrogance. "I have an invitation," he states. Xiaolan sighs inwardly, of course he does. Eyes lock on him, half wonder, half envy. The tall examiner hesitates, then nods, handing the slip back. "Even with this, you'll need to be tested. I'll go easy." Li Hao blinks. From the side, senior students exchange helpless glances. That guy again stubborn as ever. And so, with everyone watching, the true trial begins. He drew the blade from his back, and in that instant, his gaze shifted, serious, sharp, unmistakably a swordsman's. "You go first," Li Hao said calmly. The bulky youth replied with chilling confidence. "If I strike first, you might not even get the chance." "Fine," Li Hao exhaled, raising his sword with a relaxed motion. "Falling snow." That was the name of the technique, and with it, the air around him began to shimmer. Xiaolan blinked in confusion. Snow? In autumn? No, but in the stillness, it felt real. Within 3 feet of his blade, phantom snowflakes danced, each flake a flash of swordlight, a whisper of cold. The illusion was flawless, but the danger was real. This was no ordinary skill, it was the true form. The burly youth froze, pupils narrowing as if caught in a winter storm held within a single sword stroke. A storm not from the sky, but from the calm, deadly grace of the boy who held the world's edge in his palm. He drew the sword from his back, the air shifting as his gaze sharpened with the gravity of a true swordsman. "You go first," Li Hao said calmly. The broad-shouldered youth scoffed, voice heavy with confidence. "If I strike first, you might not get a chance." A breath. A flick Li Hao's sword whispered through the air, falling snow. Xiaolan blinked, confused. Why did it feel like snow was drifting around her? It was autumn, yet frost clung to her skin. All around, the world paused. Within 3 feet of Li Hao's blade, snowflakes shimmered into being cold, luminous, unreal. The illusion was so vivid it breathed, not conjured by weather, but born from sword intent alone. Each flake carried the silence of winter and the brilliance of steel. In that instant, the burly opponent stood frozen, eyes wide, watching the storm take form in Li Hao's hands as if this child wielded the breath of heaven itself. The chill didn't strike from outside, but from the illusion itself, where snowflakes spun out like whispers of a blade's intent, brushing against his cheek with a phantom's touch. Cool. The burly youth instinctively reached to feel it. There was pain, but no blood. Frozen mid-motion, sword in hand like a warrior, ready to clash, his arm trembled, unmoving. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, the snowflakes vanished like a mirage. Li Hao turned casually, returning the sword to its sheath with a sharp metallic whisper like ice cracking beneath still water. The youth jolted, trance broken, as did the others, their wide eyes betraying the lingering dream. But was it truly just a dream? Silence gripped the field until Li Hao's light voice broke through, smiling as he asked, "So, does this count as passing?" The answer came stammering, "You've won!" No duel, no contest A, hadn't even drawn his blade. Defeat had arrived before the first move, and the students of Tan Palace Academy, faces pale. They stared at Li Hao like they had glimpsed something unreal. That wasn't swordsmanship, it was mastery wrapped in illusion, an art honed to the edge of perfection. A flicker of nostalgia stirred in his chest as he recalled the girl from the Sword Cottage, wondering how far she had come with the technique he once taught her. The memory of their courtyard training brought a faint smile to his lips, but the moment passed quickly. He refocused, turning to the burly youth ahead. "So, which way next?" The youth snapped to attention, caught off guard. "Ah? Oh, straight ahead. There's a teacher waiting up there," he replied, eyes involuntarily showing awe. The difference between noble lineages and common origins was painfully clear. Li Hao gave a quiet nod, guiding Li Yuanzhao forward. Their steps light yet firm as they climbed the mountain path. Those left behind watched their figures vanish into the mist, slowly shaken from their daze. A voice finally broke the silence. Why do they have invitations? Could it be their strength exempted them from trials? The realization dawned on the group like thunder. Perhaps it wasn't just privilege, but unmatched skill. Whispers ceased. Resentment faded. Xiaolan bit her lip, a ripple of regret crossing her face as understanding struck. Tan Palace Academy stood tall for centuries not, a place that bowed to power but revered true talent. Amid the mountain mists, within the vast plaza of stone tablets, the story was only just beginning. A faint trace of nostalgia flickered in his heart as he wondered how far the little girl from Sword Cottage had come with that technique. The memory of her eager gaze in the courtyard brought a soft smile to his lips, but it vanished as he focused and addressed the youth before him. "So, which way next?" The bulky youth snapped out of awe and quickly pointed ahead. "Ah? Oh? Just go straight, there's a teacher waiting." The contrast was jarring Li Hao's quiet composure against the boy's stunned admiration. Royal and noble bloodlines truly walked a different road. Li Hao gave a calm nod, leading Li Yuanzhao forward without pause. The murmurs behind them faded as their figures disappeared into the path ahead. Then, someone spoke, puzzled. Why do they even have invitations? Does that mean their strength is above assessment? The words hung in the air, and silence followed. The earlier envy directed at the Divine General Mansion dissolved. Even Xiaolan, who had scoffed before, bit her lip, realizing her mistake. Tan Palace Academy, a sanctuary of tradition for centuries, didn't bend for empty status. And so, within the Mountain Stone Plaza, under the looming presence of ancient stelae, destiny quietly shifted. Amid the youthful fervor at the plaza where prodigies gathered, eyes fixed on ancient tablets, brimming with secret Technoquesto old men sat quietly in a shaded corner, lost in a game of chess. One, plump and deep in thought, suddenly jolted upright with a sharp slap to his thigh. "Aya, I forgot I haven't picked up the last 2 invitations yet." His companion, robed in gray, raised an eyebrow. "From the Divine General's mansion?" shouldn't be a problem. The youths from there are strong enough to pass without help. But the rotund elder frowned, voice heavy with concern. That would be true if one of them wasn't Marquis Xingwu's son. You know, the one who can't cultivate beyond body refinement. A decade ago, his failure caused an uproar. If he dies in the second trial, we're in trouble. At that, even the gray-robed elder paled. Then hurry! With a nod, the old man pulled out a whistle and blew, the shrill sound echoing through the plaza like a sudden gust before a storm. With a casual wave, he dismissed the demon bird into the sky and turned to the two youths with a genial smile. You must be the young masters from the Divine General Mansion. Which branch are you from? What are your names? His respectful tone didn't surprise them. Li Hao and Li Yuanzhao were used to such deference, their lineage alone commanding admiration. This is my brother Li Hao, and I'm Li Yuanzhao, the younger one replied, his voice eager but his eyes sharp. In that moment, Shen Yunqing's gaze fell on Li Hao, and a distant memory stirred in years ago. A child named by Emperor Yu, it was him. Yet, his expression remained serene. He nodded. They haven't given you any trouble, have they? Come, I'll take you to the gathering spot. Assuming they'd entered freely with their invitation, he led the way. The boys said little, unfamiliar with the old man, and the path ahead unfolded in quiet ease. Li Hao glanced at the scenery mist-veiled peaks. Ancient stone Pinsan thought, if this academy were to be his home, at least the view would soothe the heart. Their walk ended at the edge of the plaza, where fate stirred just beyond the horizon.
With a casual wave, the mysterious man dismissed his demon bird into the sky, then turned with a warm grin toward the newcomers. You two must be young masters from the Divine General Mansion? I can't quite place which branch mind telling me your names. Polite and composed, his tone held no edge, only curiosity. The younger boy, bright-eyed yet sharp beneath the surface, answered readily, "This is my brother Li Hao, and I'm Li Yuanzhao." At the mention of Li Hao, the man's eyes flickered for just an instant. Memories, long buried, stirred within him. A boy once named by Emperor Yu himself. So, it was truly him. Still, his expression remained unchanged as he nodded slightly. They didn't give you any trouble, did they? Come, I'll take you to the gathering point ahead. Assuming their invitation had granted them smooth passage, he led the way. The journey continued in silence, the two youths wary of this unknown elder. Li Hao, meanwhile, let his gaze drift across the mountain paths, the mists, the towering pines. He thought to himself, if this place were to become his regular abode, at least the view would be worth it. The silence stayed unbroken until they reached the edge of the great plaza.
Hundreds gathered beneath the looming shadow of three ancient stone tablets, each radiating a different aura. Li Yuanzhao stared in confusion, only to be met with Shen Yunqing's calm explanation. All who reached this place had earned the title of disciple at Tan Palace Academy, but that title alone was not enough. Talent must be measured. To separate brilliance from mediocrity, disciples were divided into grades A through D, determined by their ability to comprehend the techniques etched into the tablets: low, mid, and high-grade cultivation arts. 3 days, that was the limit. Comprehend the high-grade technique, and you stood at the summit as grade A. Grasp only the basics, and you might fall into grade C. Fail to understand anything, and you'd plummet to grade done, step from being cast out. Shen Yunqing smiled as he spoke of fairness and hierarchy, but when Li Hao asked, and if someone refuses to leave? Even the old man's amusement faltered. In front of the stele, only a dozen people gathered, a stark contrast to the other steles, where crowds of 20 to 30 formed, most opting for the safer intermediate cultivation techniques. Li Hao's eyes swept across, landing on a stele recording a fist technique, a fundamental skill for martial artists. Mastering the basics of punching and kicking can enhance one's ability with other weapons. He studied the words that appeared, "Fringe comprehension achieved. Would you like to record it?" Without hesitation, Li Hao selected yes. The record of the technique appeared on his panel, not at the beginner level, but rather labeled as Superior Cultivation Technique, Wind Slashing Fist, True Form. A technique that pushed one's limits. Having spent 5 years with second grandpa, even though the old man had been angry about the family shrine's soul, he had still taught Li Hao various self-defense fist techniques. Now in his panel, alongside the sword path, a new path had been recorded. Fist technique upgraded to the 6th stage. Over those 5 years, Li Hao had dedicated himself daily, honing many of his skills, and his progress was undeniable. In front of this particular stele, only a handful of people stood, while groups of 20 to 30 gathered around other steles, most of them focused on safer, intermediate cultivation techniques. Li Hao's eyes scanned the stone, landing on a fist technique, an essential skill for any martial artist. Mastering punching and kicking improves the effectiveness of other weapons. As he studied the technique, a message appeared. Fringe comprehension achieved. Would you like to record it? Li Hao clicked yes, and instantly, the details of the wind-slashing fist, true form, were logged onto his panel. The technique wasn't at beginner or perfection level, but was marked as a superior cultivation skill. Over the past 5 years, his time with second grandpa had refined his skills in fist techniques for self-defense, leading to the addition of the fist technique path on his panel, now upgraded to the 6th stage, along with other paths like physical, body, sword, and control, which had all also reached the 6th stage. Li Hao's daily dedication had brought significant improvements to his abilities. Fishing, chess, cooking, painting each had their stages, and Li Hao had climbed them all. 5 in fishing, chess, and painting, 6 in cooking, and 3 each in poetry, books, and zither, earning 27 artistic points. He used 24, saving 3 in reserve. At first, he thought of mastering one path to its peak, but he soon discovered that every Dao realm shifted at the 3rd stage progression beyond that demanded not just effort, but a true spiritual awakening. When cooking reached its 6th stage, a prompt warned, without grasping the soul of cuisine, there could be no further growth. Passion and focus alone weren't enough. Only by seizing the essence of the path could one ascend. Cooking wasn't mere survival, it was a divine creation that touched the heart. Chess, too, was not just war on a board, it asked for brilliance, the kind that rewrote the Rulsa divine move. These weren't just system prompts. Even without a panel, true cultivation demanded such awakenings. As second grandpa once said, without reaching these realms of insight, one would remain mediocre forever. To reach the peak, one must first embrace madness. Beyond spiritual awakening, there lies a higher realm, the realm of saints. Yet, even second grandpa, known as the Sword Saint, never truly attained sainthood, reaching only the state of mind with his spiritual awakening and his fist technique. In Dayu, saint is a supreme, untouchable term. Whether it's a fist saint or a sword saint, they're still not in the saint realm. Their titles signify they've reached a peak close to sainthood. Li Hao, pondering the future, speculated that when he reached the 9th stage, he might need to reach this state of mind to enter sainthood, though it was beyond comprehension. For now, however, he hadn't yet achieved spiritual awakening. Spirit, much like the word itself, implied soul, brilliance, and spirituality. To claim his brilliance, he had to embark on an extraordinary task, much like the Grandmasters of Tianren sect with their distinct paths. As the panel recorded, an overwhelming flood of information about the wind-slashing fist technique filled his mind. With a brief pause, Li Hao absorbed it all, as if he'd been practicing the technique for 50 years. Every move was at his fingertips, its flaws corrected, and its core essence deeply understood. The technique, as its name implied, could slash the wind and break it, wielding destructive power like a sword or nifafar beyond the mere force of fists. With the cultivation technique already rivaling the most elite, Li Hao merely glanced at the ancient stele before turning his calm gaze to those around him, each person immersed in silent contemplation, lips moving in sync with the inscriptions as they tried to unravel the martial secrets etched in stone. Some struggled with the archaic language, yet their lineage in martial clans gave them an edge in deciphering even the most cryptic phrases. Among them, Yuan Zhao read intently, his eyes moving with quiet precision. While nearby, the siblings hunched before another stele, brows furrowed, hands subtly mimicking unseen movements, practicing not with their bodies, but their minds. Li Hao, watching silently, felt a rare stir of emotion at their dedication, but said nothing. Instead, he turned away. Around the other steles, more aspirants practiced awkward swings in the open, only to falter and return to study still, far from mastery. Yet Li Hao made no move to join them. For him, such techniques, even at their finest, were no longer rare. As Li Hao's gaze wandered, he suddenly spotted Shen Yunqing tucked away at the edge of the square, seated before a chessboard. His eyes lit up, and without hesitation, he approached. "Let's see how you get out of this one," he teased. "Didn't expect that move, did you?" Shen Yunqing's opponent, a gray-robed elder, couldn't contain a burst of laughter. He already had the upper hand, the match essentially sealed. Unbothered, Shen Yunqing scratched at his ear in thought before letting out a long sigh. "All right, you win." "Win? I crushed you," the old man huffed, hand outstretched with a grin. Now handed over the drunk wind brew, as promised. With a reluctant sigh, Shen Yunqing unfastened the wine gourd from his waist and passed it over. "Just one sip, don't go overboard." "Unlike you, I honor my deals," the elder grunted before tipping back the gourd for a mighty gulp, eyes sparkling in triumph. He snatched the gourd back with seething anger, declaring that only one sip was agreed upon, while the challenger coolly replied that it was just a sip and he hadn't swallowed yet, provoking a scathing retort to drink it straight down his throat as he clutched the gourd with a heart growing icy and vowed to settle an old debt over a chess match. Meanwhile, a gray-robed elder's amused chuckle faded as his gaze fell upon a refined young man dressed in luxurious brocaded garments, whose unmistakable sleeve design and jade pendant revealed his distinguished origins. And although the elder's tone shifted to seriousness, the youth's cheerful invitation to join in a game of chess smoothly diffused any impending reprimand, prompting the seasoned fighter to question why the young man appeared so indifferent to mastering cultivation techniques, while others raced against time before ancient stone stele, even as the young master strolled over with unhurried grace.
Could be this quiet boy want them to secretly offer guidance? In Chapter 45, turning the tables, the two elders exchanged a wary glance, their faces growing tense. As teachers of the academy, how could they openly help a student bend the rules? No matter whose heir he was, no bribes or titles could justify such favoritism. While they struggled to find a polite way to decline, Li Hao calmly answered Shen Yunqing's question. "That cultivation technique? I've already mastered it." Shen Yunqing froze, disbelief etched across his feet. Their eyes sharpened instantly, was unmistakable. That move belonged to the wind-slashing fist. The sound of slicing wind, the sheer cutting force it wasn't the fumbling of a novice, but the practiced touch of someone nearing mastery. A chill passed between them. Could it be from the listening rain tower that rumored vault to ancient techniques? The stele techniques were tightly guarded, rotated every 6 years by Tan Palace Academy. No one had ever leaked them, or so they thought. Their gazes flicked back to Li Hao, the quiet boy who should have needed hours just to grasp the basics. Instead, he had seized the essence of the technique in moments. Too calm, too precise. Shen Yunqing finally spoke, directing Li Hao toward the official examiner in the center of the square, a middle-aged man flanked by stiff, struggling practitioners. But Li Hao didn't move. He simply smiled faintly and turned to the elder's chessboard, more interested in the black and white pieces than the commotion he caused. Li Hao's gaze sharpened, his tone suddenly resolute. "Change the strategy, and this can be won." Zhao Zongyuan, who had been casually mocking, froze at the certainty in Li Hao's voice. His teasing vanished, replaced by a cold smirk. "Oh?" Then enlightened Li Hao? Even Shen Yunqing, watching nearby, was visibly intrigued. No one could see a way out yet. Li Hao leaned forward and tapped a spot on the board. Zhao scoffed and countered with an adjacent move. Unfazed, Li Hao pointed again. Another challenge and another answer. Back and forth they went until Zhao's hand paused midair, eyes flickering with doubt. He stared at the board in stunned silence, the game unraveling in a way he hadn't foreseen. Li Hao's gaze sharpened, his voice cutting through attention with unshakable conviction as he declared, "Change the strategy, and victory is yours." Zhao Zongyuan, who had been mocking him a moment before, faltered, his amusement vanishing. No pieces had touched the board, yet in Li Hao's mind, the positions were already set subtle threads of strategy, weaving into form. The moves weren't dazzling, not at first glance, but something in them whispered defiance. A vain thought cut off, might still pulse with life. Zhao Zongyuan's eyes narrowed, finger pausing mid-air before retreating, lost in thought. Shen Yunqing, slow to see the nuance, caught the shift in Zhao's expression and stared hard, doubt morphing into shock. In that moment, he saw two of those quiet moves had opened a vein of possibility, threading like a serpent through death's teeth. "Here I come," Zhao murmured, striking at the heart of the board to sever the dragon's flow. But Li Hao was ready, calm, silent. He pointed to a new spot. Small flying corner, cuts the horn. If the piece landed, it would slash the board like a hidden blade. Clack, the sound echoed. Shen Yunqing slapped his thigh in disbelief, fire lighting in his eyes. How had he missed it? How had he not seen this path before? Zhao Zongyuan's gaze tightened as he studied Li Hao, his sharp eyes momentarily betraying disbelief. How could this young boy possess such a mature and ruthless mastery over chess? Come, take a seat. It's your turn now." Shen Yunqing chuckled, shifting aside to make space. "Let's see how far you can go. If you win, I'll reward you with a bottle of drunken wind brew." Li Hao nodded confidently, without hesitation. He had come for this very moment. Settling down where grass still bore warmth of being pressed, he prepared himself. Zhao Zongyuan, his frown deepening, focused entirely on the game ahead. It wasn't the boy's skill that intrigued him, it was the challenge he posed. "Then, let's see what you've got," he muttered. Li Hao's fingers moved with precision, placing a black stone on the board with a calm resolve. Opposite him, Zhao Zongyuan mirrored the move in silence. The game had begun, the air thick with anticipation as the two faced off in a battle of minds. In the square, countless heirs of powerful clans and wandering prodigies drilled their footwork and fists, drenched in sweat as they fought for a place in prestigious academies. Yet, in quiet corner, on a chessboard no bigger than a handspan, invisible war raged every move as sharp as a hidden dagger. Each placement asked, how was this elite kid's brain even built? Younger than the time it takes to brew tea, yet he'd just crushed a seasoned player on the board. Was chess a matter of talent too? Shen Yunqing couldn't help but click his tongue off. Impressive, very impressive. Li Hao smiled gently, brushing off the praise like dust from his sleeve. Just luck. Another round? Zhao Zongyuan, struggling for words, muttered, "Shouldn't you go test for your cultivation technique first? Not many spots left in Alpha Academy." Li Hao paused, realization dawning. He didn't care much about the academy, but avoiding trouble was his own kind of wisdom. All right then, he said. Senior, please wait. I'll be back soon. As he turned, both men watched him walk away, eyes filled with something between confusion and wonder. If the performance doesn't meet the standard, we'll go back and practice more, Li Yun said to his sister. Li Xiying nodded. Before them, a middle-aged man watched as 5 people practiced, with a few spectators standing by, trying to learn by observing. Suddenly, the siblings spotted a familiar face. Among them it was Li Hao. Him? Li Jing wondered. He must have come to sneak peek and learn. Li Yun raised an eyebrow, a cold smirk crossing his face. Though he didn't know when Li Hao had arrived, he was certain it was after them. If he wasn't sure of his own abilities, how could Li Hao be? Outside the field, Li Hao stood quietly, his sharp senses alerting him to their presence, but he didn't turn or acknowledge them. He understood now that the once vibrant siblings who would race into the courtyard to listen to stories were long gone. Soon, the practice ended. Of the 5, only 3 qualified, while remaining 2 fell short with their imprecise stances. Let's go. If the performance isn't up to standard, we'll go back and drill again, Li Yun murmured to his sister, his tone edged with determination. Li Jing dipped her head in quiet agreement. Before them, a solemn middle-aged examiner watched as 5 figures practiced intently, while scattered onlookers strained to glean inspiration from every measured movement. Then, in that sea of concentration, the siblings' gazes snagged on familiar silhouette Li Hao, calmly observing as if he belonged to another world entier. Li Yun stepped forward with his sister, facing the taller middle-aged man without a hint of fear. The technique we contemplated is the wind-slashing fist, he said, his tone steady. The man, recognizing their modest garb, gave a slight nod and smiled. Please demonstrate. Without hesitation, the siblings launched into motion, their punches fluid but swift. Yet when Li Yun turned, his waist held still, his body's force hadn't yet reached his fists. The man raised a brow. How long have you been contemplating this technique? Half a day, Li Yun replied, calm but with a flicker of pride in his eyes. He suspected he might have slipped. But even so, half a day was nothing short of astounding entry into Alpha Academy, usually required 3. As if conferring his thoughts, the man exclaimed, impressive! A flicker of a smile touched Li Yun's lips. Then the man turned, handed a waist pendant to the girl beside him, and declared, young lady, you have passed the entry threshold. Li Yun stood stunned. Your punch still lacks some refinement, the man added, but with more practice, you'll master it soon. Li Yun's face flushed with embarrassment as he turned to his sister and asked, when did you figure it out? Li Xiying quickly tucked away her waist pendant, replying, just now. It wasn't a lie, she had truly grasped the technique barely half an hour earlier. The middle-aged man chuckled, eyes narrowing with amusement. To enter a superior cultivation technique in less than half a day, even in Alpha Academy, that level of genius is rare. Li Yun's expression stiffened. So, there are others who've done it too? The man nodded with a faint smile. A few yesterday. This year's batch is stronger than most. Li Yun's fist clenched, his face burned humiliation twisting his gut. Just then, someone approached, catching the man's attention. Recognizing the uniform of the Divine General Mansion, his expression softened. You're here to train too? Came the quiet reply from Li Hao. At his words, both siblings turned to look. Li Yun felt a flicker of relief at least someone might be worse, but the next moment shattered that hope. Li Hao stepped forward, lifted his hand, and casually threw 2 punches. The air split with the shriek of a blade tearing silk. The middle-aged man's face paled, eyes fixed in disbelief.
Li Hao knew that the others had left the mansion later than he had, arriving at the mountain even after him. How could it be that in such a short time, someone had grasped the concept of agility so quickly? Even his sister had struggled with the basics. He couldn't help but look at that figure in disbelief. As Li Xiying watched the figure retreat, she recalled the praise from the mansion's elders about Li Hao. That child is truly clever. Indeed, so precocious. I've never seen anyone so sharp. He picks up everything in an instant. It's a shame he's only suited for body refinement. Otherwise, with such a brilliant mind, he'd surely become a top-tier genius. The adults never doubted his intelligence, only his cultivation potential. The young girl bit her lip, tightly gripping the waist token in her hand. I'm back, Li Hao said, jogging back to the 2 elders. When they saw the grade A waist token, they both understood, and Shen Yunqing smiled, congratulations. You're too kind, senior, Li Hao replied with a smile, adding, shall we play another round? The 2 elders exchanged looks, amused by how the boys seemed more addicted to chess than they were. All right, let's go again, Zhao Zongyuan said, now confident after analyzing the last game. Li Hao beamed with joy, sitting down. Please, senior.
He knew the other had only just left the mansion to join them today, arriving at the mountain even later than himself. Yet somehow in that brief span, he had grasped the essence of agility that even his own sister barely comprehended. Disbelief twisted across his face as he turned to watch that slender figure disappear into the mist. In that moment,
Fishing, chess, cooking, painting each had their stages, and Li Hao had climbed them all. 5 in fishing, chess and painting, 6 in cooking, and 3 each in poetry, books, and zither, earning 27 artistic points. He used 24, saving 3 in reserve. At first, he thought of mastering one path to its peak, but he soon discovered that every Dao realm shifted at the 3rd stage progression. Beyond that demanded not just effort, but a true spiritual awakening. When cooking reached its 6th stage, a prompt warned, without grasping the soul of cuisine, there could be no further growth. Passion and focus alone weren't enough. Only by seizing the essence of the path could one ascend. Cooking wasn't mere survival, it was a divine creation that touched the heart. Chess, too, was not just war on a board. It asked for brilliance, the kind that rewrote the rules of divine move. These weren't just system prompts. Even without a panel, true cultivation demanded such awakenings. As Second Grandpa once said, without reaching these realms of insight, one would remain mediocre forever. To reach the peak, one must first embrace madness.
These are your future rivals within Alpha Academy, youngster. Keep an eye on them, the elders warned. But Li Hao, unfazed, raised an eyebrow. Can't we just focus on chess? The silence that followed was thick. The elders, genuinely concerned, had meant well, but this boy? He didn't care, so that's why he came to Tan Palace Academy? To play chess? Annoyed, Zhao Zongyuan turned his full attention back to the board. Minutes passed. The result? A narrow Losshe's face paled in disbelief. As dusk painted the sky in gold, Li Hao was still immersed in the match when a soft voice interrupted him. How? He turned. Li Yuanzhao stood nearby, hesitant. I got the waste token, he said, almost like a confession. They had arrived late, and he'd taken his time to think. Li Hao just nodded, calm as ever. It was expected this boy had sharp eyes that didn't match his sturdy frame. They're waiting down the mountain to head back together. How? What do you think?
Let them go back first. We'll return later, Li Hao calmly said, a hint of defiance in his tone. The elders across from him exchanged glances, their faces clouded with confusion. Was this young one truly so eager to win? No more, no more. Zhao Zongyuan waved his hand dismissively. It's getting late. You should head back. But Li Hao, undeterred, replied, It's all right. I can still see. The elders could only laugh bitterly at the boy's persistent antics. Shen Yunqing sighed. Let's call it a day. If you wish to play chess, we can have a match after school starts. Li Hao hesitated for a moment, sensing the elders' lack of enthusiasm, then conceded with a smile. Fine then. Thank you both for your hospitality today. He made his final move, sealing his victory, and with a look of satisfaction, stood up and bowed respectfully. As he walked away with Li Yuanzhao, the two elders watched them go, amusement dancing in their eyes. Such a kid in the Divine General Mansion, so intriguing, they muttered, chuckling as they shook their heads. Back at the foot of the mountain, the square was aglow with lamps, the night alive with bustling crowds that showed no sign of thinning.
The scene evoked memories of night markets from Li Hao's past life, as he inhaled the crisp breeze mingled with the mouth-watering scent of charcoal-grilled treats that instantly stirred his hunger. Let's go find something to eat. While heirs from distant states still scrambled up the mystic.
Let them go back first. We'll return later, Li Hao calmly said, a hint of defiance in his tone. The elders across from him exchanged glances, their faces clouded with confusion. Was this young one truly so eager to win? No more, no more, Zhao Zongyuan waved his hand dismissively. It's getting late, you should head back. But Li Hao, undeterred, replied, It's all right. I can still see. The elders could only laugh bitterly at the boy's persistent antics. Shen Yunqing sighed. Let's call it a day. If you wish to play chess, we can have a match after school starts. Li Hao hesitated for a moment, sensing the elders' lack of enthusiasm, then conceded with a smile. Fine then. Thank you both for your hospitality today. He made his final move, sealing his inside the dimly lit carriage. The warm flicker of the oil lamp painted soft gold across the children's faces, their eyes secretly drawn to the source of the irresistible aroma. As roasted meat sizzled in Li Yuanzhao's hands, he casually bit in, then offered 2 fragrant bags to Li Jining, who hesitated before accepting, caught between courtesy and craving. She noticed her brother silently swallowing his longing, Adam's apple betraying restraint, and with a whisper of gratitude, took the food. Li Yuanzhao chuckled, teasing that only by staying behind had they stumbled upon such fortune. Jining didn't reply. Her eyes strayed to the one figure who had never turned to look at them, her gaze shadowed by an unspoken ache. She opened the bag, silently offering one to Li Yun, but he turned away sharply, voice bitter. Street food was filthy and unworthy, the mood soured. Yuanzhao snapped back with a half-hearted retort. The joy of the moment dulled by cold disdain Cordy, and with a look of satisfaction, stood up and bowed respectfully. As he walked away with Li Yuanzhao, The two elders watched them go, amusement dancing in their eyes. Such a kid in the divine general mansion. So intriguing, they muttered, chuckling as they shook their heads. Back at the foot of the mountain, the square was aglow with lamps, the night alive with bustling crowds that showed no sign of thinning.
Li Yun's glare could have pierced steel, but with nothing left to argue, he huffed, turned his head, and pretended the dark roadside scenery was the most fascinating thing in the world. Li Zini, knowing her brother's stubborn pride, sighed inwardly, but the rich scent from the food bag was irresistible. She took a bite, and her eyes lit up. It was even better than the delicacies they had at home. Ming, aren't we leaving yet? Li Yun barked toward the front. Ming, caught mid-chew on roasted meat, quickly grabbed the reins and steered the hippocampus-drawn carriage back toward their residence. Once home, they split off, each heading to find their own mothers. In Piaoxue Courtyard, Lady Gao Qingqing was mid-embroidery when the news arrived, startling her enough to nearly prick her finger. She dropped her handkerchief and rushed to the courtyard gate, where her son and daughter returned under Li Ming's quiet escort. "Did everything go smoothly?" she asked, the tension of waiting still lingering in her voice.
Li Hao's presence at the Tan Palace Academy caused a stir, but the rumors about his lack of talent quickly dissipated as he effortlessly showcased his extraordinary abilities. From passing physical trials with ease to mastering elite sword techniques, he left a trail of awe in his wake. His calm and collected demeanor hid the depth of his skills, and as he solved intricate chess puzzles and deciphered ancient cultivation techniques, he earned his place among the most gifted prodigies. Despite being underestimated, Li Hao's quiet wisdom and humble approach to his own strength set him apart, gaining him the respect of even those who had once looked down on him. With every step, he proved that true mastery isn't just about raw talent, but also about the journey of self-discovery and growth, making his presence felt in every corner of the academy.
Otherwise, he would most likely have become the true dragon of this generation. Li Jining thought of that cool, detached face, her gaze wavering with a hidden regret she dared not confess. She had heard her mother say, "Tea."
I was afraid it would lose its flavor on the way, so I didn't bring any for you, Li Hao muttered, mouth still shiny with grease. Zhao just smiled knowingly, catching the trace of warmth beneath the boy's calm. Outside the carriage, Li Fu finally had his moment, eagerly asking, "How did you feel about today?" But Li Hao only blinked, thoughtful, then replied, "The food was quite good." That blank, matter-of-fact answer left Li Fu speechless, but further questioning revealed the shocking news. Li Hao had been admitted to Alpha Academy. Joy broke across both Fu and Qingji's faces. But far from the gate's quiet interior, the echoes of the Leap Immortal Gate exam's end spread like ripples. Countless late arrivals stared at the sealed stone steps, powerless to change fate. Some tried bribery, others invoked names, but the answer remained cold. Only 825 were admitted, no more, no less. Even the wealthiest noble heirs turned away, eyes dim, dreams locked outside the threshold. As the echoes of Qingzhou's commotion faded, Tan Palace Academy stirred to life once more with the start of the new term. Atop the mountain, the courtyards, Alpha, Beta, Bing, and Dingo waited fresh talent, though only Alpha held a coveted 50 seats. In its second row sat Li Hao beside Li Yuanzhao, the quiet boy whose name had already begun to ripple through whispers. Chen Qingyun, flanked by senior students, distributed uniforms with practiced grace, evoking memories of mundane school days in Li Hao's past life, stirring a rare smile on his lips. Around him, youthful faces brimmed with ambition and curiosity, the scent of beginnings thick in the air. Rules followed, no duels without sanction, no blasphemy toward the sages. And just as order settled, she appeared willowy, poised, a living poem with eyes like painted ink Su Yahua. At once serene and commanding, she introduced herself as the dean and first lecturer of Alpha Academy. And just like that, the next chapter began. The moment Su Yahua entered the academy, the once lively courtyard fell into complete silence. The young men who were chatting nonchalantly immediately sat up straight, their attention fully captured by her presence. With her soft, gentle smile and cool demeanor, she began the first lesson, introducing the 8 realms of martial arts. The first 4 realms, strength, circulation, soul succession, and divine traveling laid the foundation, while the last 4, 15 lie, heaven-man connection, 3 immortalities, and 4 standings represented the ultimate heights of martial power. Su Yahua explained that each of the first 4 realms had 10 levels, and the difference between top geniuses and average martial artists was like night and day. She focused on the soul succession realm, elaborating on the soul condensing skill and how it varied depending on the soul thought inherited. The highest practitioners could condense their soul up to 180 times, a level so rare and powerful that it was nearly beyond reach for most. The room buzzed with astonishment as the young men processed this revelation. The gap between the highest and lowest in the soul succession realm was staggering, a shocking difference that made many wonder just how far they could push their own limits. 2 young men caught Su Yahua's passing gaze. One fidgeted with an uneasy stiffness, while the other's lips curled in smug satisfaction as murmurs rippled through the crowd, his eyes flickering with cold disdain. 180 times isn't the limit, Li Hao mused, flicking a calm glance toward the graceful instructor before shaking his head with a wry smile. The true ceiling is 360 cycles of soul condensation. Probably. At Tan Palace Academy, the mention of Alpha Academy instantly commanded only the elite could serve there as instructors. Heads subtly nodded as Su Yahua spoke, her voice calm yet resolute, describing the might of a divine traveler, those who could project their souls miles beyond their bodies, see through illusions, and shatter demonic sorcery with sheer will. Soul refining skills were the key to this power, but their quality varied. Basic ones capped at 3 miles, better ones reached 7, and the most legendary allowed 18 miles of soul projection skills so rare that only a few ancient families and powerful sects possessed them. As gasps filled the hall, she delivered the final blow with a serene smile. And within Tan Palace Academy, we have one such art. The air pulsed with ambition as noble scions straightened in their seats, fire ignited in their eyes. Those who stayed in Alpha Academy might just grasp this supreme technique if they dared. Really? They're actually willing to teach that? The soul refining skill practiced by our family head is considered a middle tier one. Excitement filled the air as some clenched their fists, hearts racing at the thought of surpassing their family head one day, studying hard at Tan Palace Academy. The very idea was intoxicating. A young man in the front row, his sleeves adorned with python patterns, smirked softly, eyes filled with disdain. The ultimate soul refining skill? It was nothing compared to the royal family's top-tier Dayu soul refining skill. The power of the Dayu skill far surpassed theirs, with the ability to cover 25 li in divine travel, nearly half the distance of a city. Against a typical divine travel realm opponent, it would crush them effortlessly. The further one could travel with the divine soul, the more demons and sorcery they could break through, perhaps even escape the grasp of a great demon. Su Yahua noticed the royal youth's mocking look, but kept her expression neutral. She was well aware of the royal family's Dayu soul refining skill, but she refrained from mentioning it, knowing it involved the celestial family, a topic that required extreme caution. Teacher, is the limit of divine travel 20 li? Later, Feng helped him infiltrate the royal family's secret vault, stealing an etching of the Dayu soul refining skill. After practicing it, his divine travel distance grew to an astonishing 50 li, allowing him to cover an entire city in an instant with his divine soul. However, Li Hao sensed his potential was far from exhausted. If he could discover even more ultimate soul refining techniques, he believed he could further refine his divine soul. If you reach the divine travel realm by 20, you'll be seen as a genius wherever you go. Su Yahua remarked with a smile. But there are those who reach it at 16, a young noble added. My father once said the Blade Saint of Northern Yan mastered it at 15. The others discussed in awe, realizing how terrifying such an achievement truly was. It was like peering at the moon from a well, but only once crossing that threshold did they understand it was akin to a mayfly gazing at the heavens. That's a feat only the top prodigies with a 9th grade fighting body can achieve, Su Yahua explained. But don't be discouraged. Reaching the divine travel realm sooner is good, but in the latter realms, talent becomes less important. Up to the 15 li realm, talent might still give you an edge, but once you enter the celestial master realm, it's more about your character, insight, and the opportunities you seize. Everyone has a chance to break through to the grandmaster level if they reach celestial. Teacher, what are the later realms like? Later, Feng smuggled him into the royal vault to steal an etching of the legendary Dayu soul refining skill. And after relentless practice, he pushed his divine travel distance to 50 li far enough to blanket an entire city, his soul able to appear anywhere in an instant. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. If he could gather more ultimate soul refining methods to compare and perfect, he might distill his divine soul into something unshakable. If you reach the divine, someone asked, half in jest, half in awe. Chapter 49, Meng River Battlefield. Li Hao turned his gaze, interest flickering. Su Yahua responded coolly. The later 4 realms surpass mortality. They aren't divided by simple stages. Take the 15 Li. Realm its name comes from a technique. The object manipulating chi circulation skill. 1 breath, 1 Li. With mastery 15 Li in a single breath, you soar not run mind guiding both body and blade. Gasps followed. That speed meant vanishing from sight in an instant, crossing mountains, leaving cities behind like vapor. At that level, one wields a sword from 15 Li away. It strikes before it's seen. The enemy dies never knowing why. Her voice didn't rise. They're killers without trace. A pause. Then the next question. And the heavenly human realm? Su Yahua's eyes didn't waver. Only those who awaken the Grandmaster's heart can enter. That's what it takes to be called one. In the royal legends, it was said that the 9 Heavens Ascension skill could make one manipulate objects across 25, li enough to traverse a small city with a single breath, or cross rivers in just 2. Among these legendary techniques, the royal family's treasured object manipulating chi circulation skill was something that, while incredibly precious, had been stolen by a daring individual, though it was a mere replica. Careful not to touch the original due to its connection to the royal palace. In the distant Gantao Palace resided Dayu's ultimate master, a true figure of unmatched power. Li Hao, blending 2 supreme cultivation techniques, was currently able to travel 40 Li with a single breath. He sensed that this wasn't his limit. With further cultivation, he could enhance this feat. At his current level, he stood at the peak of the 15 Li realm, only 1 step from reaching the Grandmaster realm. Under the guidance of the 6th stage of the control path, he could enter the Grandmaster realm at any moment, but the heart of a Grandmaster still eluded him. He pondered on what it would take to reach that heart. First, touch the heavenly gate, and second, find one's path. He had already brushed against the ethereal heavenly gate, taking a step into the Grandmaster realm. Yet, his mind had been focused on increasing his skills rather than the martial arts themselves, causing him to miss the opportunity to solidify his place as a Grandmaster. But now, as he cleared his mind, Li Hao felt the Grandmaster realm was within his grasp, ready to step into it whenever the time was right. They used to say the royal clan's 9 Heavens Ascension skill could manipulate objects across 25 Li in a single breath, crossing a city in an instant and spanning rivers before anyone could react in almost mythic power. That same clan's object manipulating chi circulation skill had been stolen in secret by Feng, though only a copied scroll dared make it out, for the real text lay too close to Gantao Palace. Guarded by the one all called, the true pinnacle techniques of Tan Palace Academy lie within the mysterious black and white hall where only the truly chosen may tread. As the wind shifted in the courtyard, Li Hao's gaze sharpened. She spoke clearly. There are 2 paths to enter. The top 5 in Alpha Academy's martial rankings for 6 consecutive months, or surviving the trials of the Mo River battlefield. At the mention of Mo River, a hush fell its name, whispered like a legend, its dangers unspeakable. Li Hao remembered the secrets he'd uncovered in Listening Rain Tower. The Mo River, outside the Li clan's rule, veiled in blood and myth. Her voice rose, slicing the silence. Of the 5 divine generals, 4 hold the frontier passes east, west, south, north guarding against chaos. But the first, Tian Zhao, presides over the Mo River Authority. They suppress the very river that threatens all. Her eyes swept the crowd, pausing on Li Hao. Because of them, we can study, spar, and chase so-called glory. They hold the line unseen. Without them, none of this would stand. Right, Li Yuanzhao muttered, his fists clenched tightly under the table, excitement radiating from his round face. While the border skirmishes are out of our reach, the Meng River battlefield, like the veins of the earth, stretches through all 19 provinces of Dayu. It's our duty as martial artists to resolve the Mo River situation. Su Yuhua's voice was firm, her tone leaving no room for argument. She then turned to the students, singling one out. You're from the Wang family of the Tianzhao Divine General Mansion, correct? Explain the Mo River to us. The boy she pointed to, a 14 to 15-year-old dressed in black, with piercing, cold eyes, stood up with ease. Teacher, my name is Wang Han, he said calmly. The Tianzhao Divine General Mansion, the first of its kind, held a position of prestige above the Li family. Wang Han, though not the most exceptional of the third generation, was on par with Li Yun and Li Yuanzhao talented, yet not the cream of the crop. His presence at Tam Palace Academy wasn't just for education, but also for strengthening connections, benefiting from the peerless techniques of the Black and White Hall. Please, Wang Han, Su Yuhua urged, a hint of approval in her voice. The other students turned their gaze toward him, awe and respect shining in their eyes. Despite his simple attire, his background was clear to those who knew the significance of Tianzhao Divine General Mansion, even if he was far from flaunting it. The Meng River battlefield, an ancient anomaly without beginning or enders, slowly crept from forgotten myths into the outskirts of civilization. It's like a dream realm, Wang Han states with chilling clarity, but death there is real. Even annihilation can't silence the Mo River completely. It regrows like a curse that breathes. That's why the Mo River Authority recruits relentlessly, yet remains perpetually short-handed. Few Mo Rivers have ever been cleansed, he adds. You'll understand why once you step into one. A nervous voice dares to ask what lies within. Wang Han's eyes narrow. They say it's the river that leads to hell where the dead never rest. The temperature in the room plunges. Silence, heavy and sharp, clings to every breath. Then Su Yuhua steps forward, voice like sunlight breaking frost. You've 1 year to forge your strength. Tam Palace Academy gives you everything if you can seize it. Your future is your own, so fight for it. Eyes once clouded by fear, now shimmer with resolve, the shadows of hell momentarily outshone by the promise of destiny. As long as you're within these academy walls, your status outside means nothing. Su Yuhua's voice rang out, crisp as frost. Mistakes are punished the same, and achievements are rewarded the same. The crowd stirred. Curious glances flicked toward Li Hao and Wang Han, their noble identities suddenly irrelevant. Could such a quality truly exist here? Li Hao only smiled faintly, unaffected. Once Su Yuhua departed, the courtyard buzzed with new life. Young elites swarmed around Li Hao and Li Yuanzhao, eager to forge connections. Even now, under their parents' shadows, they had begun investing in their future networks. Li Hao didn't dismiss them outright, but his interest was fleeting. Young Master Li, I'm from the Zhao family of Chanju. Do you play chess? No. Painting? Not that either. His gaze cooled. Boredom returned. Days passed swiftly, and half a month was gone. At Alpha Academy, after just half a month, the 50 newly admitted students had grown familiar enough to call each other by name. Sitting casually on the grass, the graceful Du Qiyue turned to Li Yuanzhao and marveled. Your Divine General Mansion is terrifying. You're all newcomers, but nearly swept the top 10. Once ranked among the best, she now found herself pushed down to 15th not because she slacked off, but because this year's intake was monstrous. 7 hailed from the Divine General Mansion. 2 were imperial princes, and others carried bloodlines of grandmasters or nobles. They entered with Cycle Heaven realm perfection already achieved, backed by centuries of cultivation legacy. The older students had trained for years to reach the same level, only to realize the gap in technique made them feel twice as weak. The aura, the skills, even the chi flow, they couldn't compete. Dayu's elite had descended, and the academy's balance had shattered. Scratching his head, Li Yuanzhao replied modestly, It's nothing much, I'm only 6th. Du Qiyue, stunned, could only fall silent. Beside them, a newcomer from a noble Liangzhou family, Zheng Bai, forced a bitter smiler ranked only 38th despite his status. Unlike those with sky-high connections who dared to challenge returning students outright, scions like him had to play by the rules, bowing to the authority of senior rank. On the training field, figures sparred and traded strikes while Du Qiyue's gaze lingered on the martial arts ranking with a storm of emotion. Among the top 5, only one returning student held on, a lone standard-bearer of fading pride. The first 2 spots belonged to the Imperial Princes, backed by unmatched royal techniques, the Meridian opening skill and Chi circulation skill famed across the land. In third stood Wang Han of the Divine General Mansion. At just 15, his cold-eyed ferocity had earned him a fearsome name. Rumor claimed he once served at the Mo River Authority, and his blade now bore the chill of real war. Du Qiue's eyes narrowed at the mention. The fourth was the Grandmaster's daughter, her swordplay ghost-like and terrible, as though she had glimpsed the soul of the blade itself. Ranked fifth is the returning student once hailed as the top of the martial arts ranking. His spear skills honed to high-grade perfection, he barely edged out Li Yuanzhao yesterday by half a move. Sitting just one place below, Li Yuanzhao is followed closely by his two fellow disciples. Yet among all the names whispered in admiration, one remains conspicuously absent. "Where's your brother Hao?" Du Qiue's voice cuts through the courtyard's buzz, eyes scanning for the elusive figure. The way Li Yuanzhao speaks of him always with a quiet reverence makes his absence all the more strange. That boy, always disappearing the moment class ends, never once participating in the spontaneous duels or the ranking challenges, as if Alpha Academy were just a brief stop in his own secret journey. Even in class, he drifts like a shadow, sometimes asleep, other times scribbling furiously into a book that, upon closer look, contains no words-only sketches. Ferocious aquatic beasts fill the pages, along with countless drawings of teacher Su Yehuasom reimagined with cat ears and tails. Part human, part demon. At first glance, it seemed like intense study, but in truth, it was just quiet, solitary doodling. Even without saying a word, Du Qiu could see at every stroke in the painting shimmered with honed elegance, a grace that only relentless practice could summon. But then she scoffed inwardly these were martial artists. Who among them had time for such hobbies? When Li Yuanzhao casually remarked, "Brother Hao must have gone to play," it sounded so normal coming from him that it made both Du Qiue and Zheng Bai freeze. Play? That word wasn't even part of their reality. From the whip marks across their backs to the stern lectures echoing in their minds, if you waste time now, you'll gamble with your life later. They had learned that suffering was the price of strength. Meanwhile, Li Hao? He never even showed up to practice. Not once. Even when elders begged, he vanished like mist. He didn't chase peers. If anyone wanted to see him, they had to seek him out. In their world of pressure and pain, the idea of simply playing was as distant as the heavens. "How can you honor your ancestors if you're so careless?" A voice filled with sharp reproach echoed. To them, play is no trivial matter. It's as though it's forbidden, something untouchable. Isn't he entering the martial arts ranking? If he does, the students from Beta Academy will challenge him, and he'll end up demoted there. Du Qiue hesitated, her words lingering in the air. Li Yuanzhao's eyes flashed with fury. "Who dares? If anyone dares challenge Brother Hao, I'll get demoted to Beta Academy and knock them back down." Du Qiue could only stare, her thoughts interrupted by Zheng Bai's casual admiration. "Wow, that's some serious confidence. Your Divine General Mansion will protect you, so you likely won't face many challenges. But when it comes to the Mo River battlefield test a year from now, it's all on you," Du Qiu added, her voice tinged with bitterness. "On those extermination missions, we can rely on our family's hidden guardians. But in the Mo River battlefield, we're on our own, and no alliances are allowed. It's a solo test." "True," Li Yuanzhao murmured, a rare moment of seriousness passing through him. "I'll talk to Brother Hao about this later." Du Qiue was left stunned. Was the young master of the Divine General Mansion truly dismissing this challenge so lightly? Martial arts practice is so boring, especially when it's not from the black and white hall, Li Hao muttered with a sigh that danced between boredom and sharp defiance. The elders exchanged glances, shaking their heads. This boy had just arrived and already dreamed of peerless techniques? How naive. Yet they knew better now. He wasn't the pampered noble brat they'd first assumed. Beneath that disinterest in sword drills and fist patterns lay a mind sharper than most Alpha Academy elites. They had tested him once with chess, hoping to sprinkle in some martial insight, only to be rebuked mid-game. "You're about to lose and still rambling? Pick up the piece already. Want a 5-stone handicap instead?" They were left amused and irked, their lectures upended by a boy who saw the board clearer than they did. Elder Shen, the wine. Li Hao tilted his chin toward the flask at Shen Yunqing's waist, casual as if claiming owed silver. "You lost 2 sips today, don't think I forgot." Shen's mouth twitched. The flask was meant for him and Zhaozong Yuan, and now this clever-mouthed youth had inserted himself, draining his precious drunken wind brew sip by sip. Still, With a snort and resigned toss of the gourd, he gave in, after all, a man should honor his bets, even when bested by a child too young, too bright, and just annoying enough to admire. Martial arts is dull unless it's from the black and white hall, Li Hao muttered with a sigh. The elders exchanged a glance, mildly amused. Just arrived and already dreaming of peerless skills? Keep dreaming. They had tested him once over a game of chess, expecting arrogance, but instead found a boy sharper and stronger than most at Alpha Academy. Still, he showed little interest in martial training. During chess matches, he ignored their guidance, snapping, "You're losing and still chatting? Focus! Pick up the piece now! Want me to spot you 5 stones?" Their irritation mingled with reluctant fondness. Then, with a casual tilt of his head, Li Hao nodded towards Shen Yunqing's flask. "Elder Shen, the wine you owe me 2 sips." Shen's mouth twitched. He had planned to drink only with Zhao Zongyuan, but now had to share with this sharp-tongued little menace. Sighing, he tossed the gourd over. "Easy, kid. You're still young." Li Hao chuckled, uncorked the gourd, and took 2 bold swigs before wiping his mouth with satisfaction. Not bad at all. Though capable of brewing fine wine himself, he rarely bothered, cooking being just one of his many 6 mastered arts. His carefree air made the elders sigh in silent resignation as they nibbled their roasted rabbits. Returning the wine to Shen Yunqing, Li Hao gave a casual pat and murmured, "I'll drop by again tomorrow." With that, he soared lightly through the air, his silhouette flashing past the waterfall like wind-cutting white stone. Humming, he strolled off without a carry. He had climbed all this way just for a taste of wine and to share rabbits and thanks. Watching him go, the 2 elders exchanged helpless laughter. "That kid," one began before noting the technique Li Hao used. "Wasn't it the White Phoenix skill?" Shen Yunqing, mouth half full, confirmed it. Mastered already, doubts lingered had he truly perfected wind-slashing fist in a single day? To achieve mastery in just half a month, Zhao Zongyuan murmured, suspicion rising. Did the Li family lie about his aptitude? With the marshal always at the border and no mother by his side, he trailed off. Shen Yunqing took another bite, wine warming his chest, eyebrows twitching in pleasure. A marquis's household is as deep as the sea who really knows? But one thing's certain, this boy is a rare prodigy. I'd wager the Mo River will remember his name within a year. Zheng Bai gave a slight nod, not denying the possibility, his mind turning with quiet curiosity. Would Li Hao reveal his true strength when the moment called? But just as the thought settled, Li Hao's silhouette vanished around a distant corner. Zheng Bai's brow twitched, suspicion flickering across his face. "Did that kid take a wrong turn?" he muttered. A voice responded with a puzzled edge. "You didn't tell him? That path leads straight to the Mo River."